Hello, my friends around the world. It seems like it's been forever and a day since I did a new installment on this reading of the Gosho. This is the unanimous declaration by the Buddhas. I'm almost done with this one. This is installment number 9. I have in my notes here where I wrote down end of 9. Or this is installment number 10 because I wrote end of 9. I gotta get my drink. Hold on one second. I always realize how dry my throat is once I start talking. Okay, it's that time of year where I gotta wear the hats and stuff, and pretty soon I'm gonna put many layers on. Okay, I hate this time of year in Japan. I want to get out of Japan. It's now December 1st, getting colder and colder. I got 2 heaters going in my room. Okay, here we go. The 10th installment. After I read this one, I'm going to read Letter to Mishima, which was written about the same time as this Gosho was. And I think it covers a lot of the same stuff, so it'll be a good transition. Okay, the, quote, resolution on reprimanding other schools, end quote, by Sanno-in contains this passage of refutation, quote, in general, we speak of the 80,000 Buddhist teachings, but if we make an overall survey of them, we find that there are none that do not belong to one or another of the 4 teachings, as I have shown at the beginning of this work. These 4 teachings, the Tripitaka teachings, the connected teachings, the specific teachings, and the perfect teachings. So there's over 40-something years that he taught. The Buddha taught 4 main categories of teaching, and the final teachings, the perfect teachings, contain the Lotus Sutra, which he's talking about here. Okay, this is still part of the same quote. And the pertaining to the the perfect teaching pertaining to the vehicles of the voice hearers, the cause awakened ones, the Bodhisattva, and the Buddhas. So the first Tripitaka teachers was specifically for the voice hearers, which is a level of his moving up towards enlightenment. It also represents the world of, hell, hunger, animality, anger, tranquility, or humanity, heaven, learning, realization. So learning. The next stage is realization, otherwise known as cause awakened ones. And that was the teaching, the connected teachings. And then the next level, altruism or bodhisattva, for the bodhisattvas was the specific teachings. And the Buddha, respectively. So the final teachings, the perfect teaching, was for Buddhas, like you and me. We're all Buddhas from time without beginning, which this Gosho says. In other Goshos I will be reading. And the Lotus Sutra says it, and I'll be reading the Lotus Sutra after I'll read all these Goshos. Okay. But if we examine the doctrines expounded and the principles underlying them in the true word, Zen, flower garland, 3 treatises, conscious only, precepts, establishment of truth, and Dharma analysis treasure schools. These are the 7 or 8 major schools in Japan at the time. How do these go beyond what is set forth in the 4 teachings? This is still part of the same quote from this guy, Sanno-in, which I'll read in the footnotes who exactly that is. Okay, if one claims that they do go beyond them, then they must be non-Buddhist doctrines or heretical teachings. And if they do not go beyond them, then one must inquire what goal they are intended to achieve. That is, which of the 4 vehicles mentioned above does one hope to achieve? So the 4 vehicles are the learning, realization, bodhisattva, and Buddhahood, otherwise known as voice hearers, cause awakened ones, bodhisattvas, and Buddha. So which of those 4 vehicles is the teachings meant to be taught to or the people who learn those teachings, what are they meant to become? And the final teachings is you meant to become a Buddha, which we all are, just to remember who we are. And depending upon how that question is answered, one should then examine their fundamental principles to the fullest and admonish them for their errors. In doing so, one should employ the classification of the four teachings set forth by our own school and base one's conclusion on this. If the goals that these other schools aim to achieve differ from those set forth in our teachings, one should then take them to task for this. Now then, as regards the Flower Garland School, it sets forth its various practices which act as causes and the various results or goals that these are intended to achieve within the framework of the five teachings. These practices fall into different categories such as initial, medial, and latter, and are not uniform in nature, with one type of teaching intended to achieve one particular result. But if the causes and results in their scheme do not conform to those outlined in the Tripitaka connecting specific and perfect teachings, then this is not a Buddhist teaching. So those are the four categories of Buddhist teaching. So if these other schools of Buddhism don't go within those four categories, he's saying they're not Buddhist teachings, even though they call themselves Buddhist teachings. Okay, this is still part of the same quote from Resolution on Reprimanding Other Schools by Sano-in. Sounds like a Chinese name to me. Okay, when it comes to the thrice-turned wheel of the law, expounded in the three treatises school, or the teachings of the three periods, expounded in the Dharma characteristic school, one should determine whether such doctrines are sound or not. One should ask what vehicle the practice of such teachings is designed to achieve. One of those four vehicles. If the reply is that they are designed to achieve the vehicle of Buddhahood, then one should point out that they do not include the meditative practice required to achieve Buddhahood. If the reply is that they are designed to achieve the vehicle of Bodhisattva, then one should point out that there are two interpretations of the middle way. That which sees the three truths that make up the middle way as separate entities, and that which sees them as an integral whole, and ask which view is held by the school of the person being questioned. If the answer is that they are regarded as separate, then point out that there is no way that the desired goal can be achieved by such means. If the answer is that they are regarded as an integral whole, then raise the same objection as one did where the goal to be achieved was that of Buddhahood. If there are those who mistakenly reply upon the recital of mantras, then point out that unless one has an understanding of the wonderful teaching of the threefold contemplation in a single mind, this is by Tiantai, then one is no different from a follower of the specific teaching and can never gain enlightenment as to the wonderful principle underlying existence. These are all still quotes from the same writing. In this way, one should investigate to the fullest the goals aimed at by these other schools and criticize them on the basis of true principles. that is, the principles taught by our own school. The principles of logic are addressed to non-Buddhist believers. Such principles are in most cases associated with the Hinayana or specific teaching doctrines. In comparison to the teachings set forth in the Lotus Flower Garland and Nirvana Sutras, these are intended to serve as an introduction to those higher teachings. They are designed as temporary measures to fit the particular capacity of the hearer and to lead and guide them. Their ultimate purpose is to enable non-Buddhists and followers of Hinayana teaching to come to an understanding of true principles. Therefore, when discoursing on Buddhist teachings, one should keep in mind the goals aimed at by the four ranks of sages and not become unduly concerned with the particular doctrines or principles of logic alone. Also, when asserting the doctrinal tenets of other schools, one should examine them in the light of the tenets of one's own school and judge their correctness accordingly. But this must not be done in a hard-headed or hostile manner. On the whole, the other schools, in most cases, hold doctrines that pertain to the first three of the four teachings and seldom touch upon the principles of the perfect teaching. Because the perfect teaching was only really taught in the Lotus Sutra. So if they don't use the Lotus Sutra as their main text, then there's no way for them to have the perfect teaching. Okay. This, then, is the judgment on these matters passed by the sages of former times, the great teacher, Chiso. It provides... So that was the end of the quote. So this is now Nichiren talking. This, then, is the judgment of those matters passed by the sage of former times, the great teacher Chiso. It provides a mirror by which one may unflailingly perceive and judge the principles set forth by the various schools. This is why he studied all the Chinese great masters, and he was able to debate anyone on any Buddhist priest in Japan and blow them away. And every time he did that, everyone would freak out because their followers would all join Nichiren, and then the monks who lost him in debate would go to the leaders of their specific area in Japan and try to get those leaders to fight against Nichiren because he was taking all their followers, just because he was using the Buddhist text to dispute everything they said, which is what a Buddhist should do. Okay. Why then do the scholars of this latter age fail to look upon it, but instead rashly presume to judge the doctrinal teachings on their own? So, during the Latter Day of the Law, which is the time of Nichiren Daishonin, the beginning of the Latter Day of the Law, the fifth 500 years after the historical Buddha died, which was the beginning of the Latter Day of the Law, which we believe is around this time. All the Buddhist teachers at the time weren't using any of the historical texts and all the classifications why something should be above and why something should be below. They were just using their own reasoning, which was totally perverted, because that's what Latter-day meant, was a time of total perversion of the teachings. Okay, except Nichiren. He went specifically to the sutras and to the commentaries on the sutras that were, really came to the correct understanding of what he understood through the sutras. Okay. It is essential that one give close study to the three teachings that run through all Buddhism. These teachings are the sudden teaching, the gradual teaching, and the perfect teaching. These are the unity of the three truths set forth in the sacred teachings of the Buddha's lifetime. The first two teachings, sudden and gradual, were expounded by the Buddha in the first 42 years of his preaching life. The perfect teaching was expounded in the last 8 years. Together, they represent the teachings of a period of 50 years. Outside of these, there are no other doctrines. How then can you fail to understand them correctly? When one is still at the stage of an ordinary living being, these three teachings are referred to as the three truths. When one has attained the goal of Buddhahood, they are called the three bodies. So the three bodies of the Buddha. It's another way of saying your physical body, your consciousness or your energy body, and your thoughts or your feelings, which is your, some people would say subtle body. But the three bodies of the Buddha are really every living being that's alive now, because we're all Buddhas. That's what the final teaching pretty much said. The three bodies of the Buddha are what everyone has. Those are the three truths. They're you and me. We are the three truths. Okay. We'll get to that in later Gosho and when I read the actual sutra. Okay. Once again, when one opens up and merges these so that one can perceive that the three truths constitute a single entity. Actually, let me go back. When one is still in the stage of an ordinary living being, these three teachings are referred to as the three truths. When one has attained the goal of Buddhahood, which is what you are when you open your eyes and you wake up, which is taught in the opening of the eyes on Sado Island, they are called the three bodies. These are different names for the same thing. The process of expounding and bringing them to light is known as the sacred teaching of the Buddha's lifetime. When one opens up and merges these so that one can perceive that the three truths constitute a single entity, this is to attain Buddhahood. So as long as you know that this three bodies of the Buddha and the three truths are all just your life, it's consciousness, it's life, then you are a Buddha. That's all you have to know. This is called opening up and merging, and this is the teaching that pertains to the Buddha's enlightenment. Okay. In the doctrinal systems expounded in the other schools, these three truths that constitute a unity are treated as separate and expounded under 8 headings. One of these eight forms the basis for a particular school. Thus, they are all lacking in the principle of full and perfect unity, and hence have no truth by which one may attain Buddhahood. So if you take the whole, if you try to understand the whole based on the parts, and the parts aren't complete, only the whole is complete, which is all oneness, which you are, you're going to have a distorted view of the whole, but looking at each part separately, no matter what you look at. In these other schools, there is no possibility of truly attaining Buddhahood. Therefore, one dislikes them. But what one dislikes about them is the fact that these doctrines are insufficient. When one turns to the perfect teaching, however, and sees that all phenomena are perfectly fused together, that means all is oneness. We are oneness. You are me, I am you. You are Nichiren, I am Nichiren. You are Shakyamuni, you are Siddhartha, you are Gautama, whatever you want to call him. You are a Buddha from time without beginning. You are the Bodhisattva Jogyo of the latter day of the law. You are the awakened one from time without beginning. It's all one, because it's all oneness. Okay, whatever names you want to call. You want to say Maitreya Buddha from the future. It's all the oneness. You're all that and more. That's why you're going to, my next song comes out, You're Everything and More, you'll understand it. Anyway. Okay, I'm going to go on here. When one turns to the perfect teaching, however, and sees that all phenomena are perfectly fused together, full and perfect, like the moon and the 15 like the moon on the 15th night of the month. So they were on a moon cycle back then, which all cultures were, which wasn't fucked up by the Julian calendar. 1 month equals 1 moon, so on the 15th of the month you get a full moon, and that's perfect. That's how all months should be 28 days or so. And you have 13 months in a year, like a normal year. Okay, anyway, that's a whole nother subject. Free of all insufficiency, and when one understands them to be fullest, then there is no more judging them as good or bad, no more choosing on the basis of what is timely, no more need to seek out a quiet setting, no more question of which persons are eligible. When one understands that all phenomena whatsoever are manifestations of the Buddhist law, then one has fully comprehended the nature of the things of the phenomenal realm. Then, even if one follows a path that is not the way, one will still be fulfilling the Buddha way. Isn't that beautiful? You can't do anything wrong if you understand that you are a Buddha from time without beginning, because no matter which way you go, you're going to end up getting back to the truth, because you are the truth. Once you understand that the Gohonzon is you, you are the Gohonzon. The mystic law is you, you are the mystic law. The Buddha is you, you are the Buddha. There's no way you can go wrong. That's what he's saying here. And he says it in many other Goshas. And I'm going to go to those Goshas next, because some people stupidly believe that this is not written by Nichiren Daishonin. But anyway, we'll get into that later on when I read the ones that they do believe that are written by Nichiren Daishonin, which say the exact same thing. So it's kind of like, okay, he said it twice and you don't believe it the first time or the second time. Okay, anyway, let me take a drink. So much fun out there in the land of fairy tale make-believe of I'm not a Buddha, I'm just an ordinary mortal, which is just a complete lie. Okay, heaven, earth, water, fire, and wind. Sounds like a band. Or that's earth, wind, and fire. Heaven, earth, water, fire, and wind are the 5 wisdom thus come ones. They reside within the body and mind of all living beings and are never separated from them, even for an instant. So you are all the seasons, you are all the planets, you are everything and more. Song come up soon on MTV. Okay, therefore, worldly affairs and affairs relating to enlightenment blend together in harmony within the mind of the individual. Outside of the mind, there is absolutely no other thing that exists. Therefore, when one hears the truth, one can, at that point, immediately attain the goal of Buddhahood without a moment's delay. Did you hear that? Can I read that again? So if you understand what I'm saying, you're already a Buddha. Otherwise, you wouldn't have got to the 10th installment of this, because you would have turned it off and been an inchantika, which is walked out of the ceremony in the air before the perfect expedient means was claimed. So if anyone thinks they're not a Buddha, they're an inchantika. That's the only 2 options you get. You're either a man of incorrigible disbelief, woman of incorrigible disbelief, or you're a Buddha. Okay, here we go again. Therefore, worldly affairs and affairs related to enlightenment blend together in harmony within the mind of the individual. Outside of the mind, there is absolutely no other thing that exists. It's just all a process of your imagination, because we're in a holographic matrix, all created by our thoughts and feelings and emotions and our actions and our words. Okay. Therefore, when one hears this truth, are you hearing it? One can, at that point, immediately attain the goal of Buddhahood. Did you hear me? Okay, you guys are Buddhas. Thank you very much. Without a moment's delay. And it is a principle of the utmost profundity. So if you thought I was just joking that you're a Buddha from time without beginning, and you thought someone you put on a pedestal that died a long time ago was that person, not the one you are alive now, because you are him and he is you, he, she, whatever it is. Because in the ceremony, before the ceremony in the air, the first person that attained Buddha in the Lotus Sutra was the Dragon King's daughter. So that is you too, woman or man, whatever you choose. Okay, we're all Buddhists from time without beginning. The three truths that form a unity may be compared to a jewel, its brilliance and its precious nature. Because it has these three virtues, one is a jewel, a brilliance, and a precious nature. So these are the three factors of life. One is form, honoze, sonoze, shonoze, tai. Honoze, sonoze, sho. Appearance, nature, and entity. That's what he's basically saying. These are the three truths. And the three factors, they're all the same. The physical body, which is the form. The nature, which is all the feelings, all the emotions, all the other stuff. Thoughts. And then the entity, which is neither of those things, but comes together as those, which is the consciousness, which is life itself. Okay, once again, the three truths that form a unity may be compared to a jewel, its brilliance and its precious nature. Because it has these three virtues, it is called a wish-granting jewel. So the Gohonzen, which is up here, which I'm not going to show you, you can look at pictures online if you want. I don't want to show mine. It is open now on my altar over here, which I'm going to chant more to before I go to bed, because I'm feeling good now. I was feeling good before I started reading, but now I wondered why I waited so long to read this 10th thing, because I just needed to totally get high on life to read it. Okay, I didn't do any of that or anything like that because I'm high on life. I don't drink much alcohol either. Occasionally. Okay. So why it's called a wish-granting jewel, and it can serve as a symbol for the unity of the three truths. But if these three virtues were taken apart and treated as separate entities, which science does, science says the only thing that can be proven by science is that which can be observed, which they think is physical reality, which is 1/3 of reality. That's pretty much a religion now, most of it scientism. Then, okay, so if these are taken separately, the three realities, which is physical reality, spiritual reality, and the entity or the consciousness of all reality, then the jewel would be of no use. So if you had a jewel and it was just the jewel, but it had no brilliance and it had no precious nature, then it wouldn't be a jewel. It would then be comparable to the various schools that expound expedient teachings in which the three truths are regarded as separate from one another. The jewel itself is comparable to the Dharma body. This is the three bodies of the Buddha, the Dharma body, the law body. Its brilliance to the reward body, which is another three bodies of the Buddha, which is all oneness. And its precious nature to the manifest body. Manifest is the physical body. When these three virtues, which form a unity, are treated as separate entities, the schools are established on that basis. One dislikes such schools because of their insufficiency. But when the three are combined to form a single whole, this is known as the unity of the three truths. This unity of the three truths is comparable to the thus come one of original enlightenment. Did you hear that? Original enlightenment. That means from time without beginning. Whose three bodies are in fact a single body. In terms of the four kinds of lands, the land of tranquil light is comparable to a mirror, and the other three lands, the land of sages and ordinary mortals, and the land of transition, and the land of actual reward, are comparable to the images reflected in the mirror. But the four lands are one single land, just as the three bodies are one single body. Now, I highlighted this before, so this must be important. Now, with this Lotus Sutra, These three bodies and four kinds of lands blend together in harmony to form the virtue of a single Buddha, known as the Buddha of tranquil light. Have you heard of that Buddha before? Okay, that is the Buddha you are. You are the Buddha of tranquil light. The Buddha of tranquil light functions as the Buddha of the perfect teaching. And the Buddha of the perfect teaching is the true Buddha of the state of wakefulness. The Buddhas of the other three lands are provisional Buddhas in a dream realm. Did you guys hear that? Should I say it again? I think I should, because it needs to really sink in, because this is one of the meat and potatoes, because we're on the second to last page of the Gosho, so he's getting down to the real nitty gritty. Okay, now, with the Lotus Sutra, these three bodies and four kinds of lands blend together in harmony to form the virtue of a single Buddha, known as the Buddha of tranquil light. That is you and me, baby. The Buddha of tranquil light functions as the Buddha of the perfect teaching, and the Buddha of the perfect teaching is the true Buddha of the state of awakefulness. Are you awake? The Buddhas of the other three lands are provisional Buddhas in the dream realm. So the Buddha Shakyamuni, the Buddha Nichiren, the Buddha, whatever one you want to take out, you want to say the Buddha in the future, those are all provisional Buddhas. The real Buddha is the one when you look in the mirror, or look in the Gohonzon, which is a mirror, and that's the true Buddha. This is the declaration proclaimed in identical words by the Buddhas of the three existences regarding the overall classification of the teachings. No one can say a word against it. So this was all in the Lotus Sutra, before the ceremony there, and in the ceremony there. All the Buddhas came up, and they all attested to this fact right here. No one can say a word against it. No one can try to interpret it to mean anything else. Anyone who goes against this declaration is guilty of the grave crime of turning against the Buddhas of the three existences. Such persons are the heavenly devil or non-Buddhists. Because persons, if they do so, will be turning against the Buddhist law for all time, this teaching must be kept secret and not revealed to others. Okay, so at the time that this was expounded, when he said, I finally declared my mission, he specifically wrote here, do not share this with other people. Why did he do that? So he gave it to Nikko Shonin, he gave it to Nichimoku Shonin and his top disciples, and he said don't share it with other people. That doesn't mean don't share it now. At that time, Japan was in a feudal state, and there wasn't democracy. Although there isn't democracy now, I'm in Japan, but anyway, there's at least the pretense of it within the Constitution and the idea we're going to move up into someday when we graduate into our full potential. But at that time, there was all this rankism, and there's still complete rankism in Japan. Even the language, you have to either speak up to people or you have to speak down to them. There's no speaking equals in Japanese language, so it's a language that doesn't have a way of having democracy. So the only way they're going to ever have equality is to just throw out all the aisatsus and all the what do you call it? I forget what it's called. All the superior and inferior, what they call kohai down and senpai up, total mindset of them. Everything's this hierarchical structure. So that's why at that time he says, don't reveal this to other people. It wasn't the time. If it is not kept secret, but is recklessly made known, then people will fail to have a true understanding of the principles of the Buddhist law, and in their present and future existence will cease to receive divine protection. If persons appear who slander the law, they will be turning their backs on the Buddhas of the three existences, and both those who reveal the secret teaching and those to whom they are revealed will fall into the evil path of existence. So At this time, if I was to reveal this to someone who wasn't ready for it, I would also be guilty of helping them slander it, because they would go, "What are you talking about? I'm a Buddha. You're a Buddha. We're all Buddhas. What are you talking about?" Because they put Nichiren on a pedestal after he died. They put Shakyamuni on a higher pedestal, and that's totally against everything in the Buddhist teachings. If you go to the final teachings of the Lotus Sutra, it says, "I made a vow to make all people equal to me with no distinctions." No distinctions is no classifications of up and down. It's all even. It's all complete equality, egalitarianism. Okay, but that time it couldn't be understood in Japanese, because Japanese were very, very into rankism. They're still very into rankism. So this whole idea that there's a Gohanzen better than another Gohanzen is complete rankism, which is totally against Buddhist teachings. Okay, where am I? Okay, because I know that this is what will happen, I issue this warning. Therefore, one must take great care to guard these secret teachings and gain a true understanding of these principles. Doing so, one will be acting in accord with the original intention of the Buddhas of the three existences, and therefore will enjoy the protection of the two sages and the two heavenly deities and the 10 demon daughters, and without hindrance attain the highest level of rebirth in the land of tranquil light, because you will be a Buddha of tranquil light. Then in no time one will return to the dream realm of the 9 worlds, and the realm of birth and death will cause one's body to pervade the lands of the entire phenomenal realm of the 10 directions, and will cause one's mind to enter into the bodies of all sentient beings, encouraging them from within, leading and guiding them from without, inner and outer, complementing one another, causes and conditions functioning in harmony, and in this way will utilize the pity and compassion of one's freely exercised transcendental powers to bestow unhindered benefit upon living beings far and wide. Wow. Okay, so this is what I do on my radio program twice a week. I step into being the Buddha from time without beginning. I claim, own, and acknowledge that. And then I use the supernatural powers of the Thus Come One, which we all have, which this Gosha talks about, which is the ability to, with one's mind, penetrate all phenomena. Which means if someone has a sickness, penetrate that phenomena, find out what's going to change it, and change it with one's mind. So, here we go. The last page and a half. The Buddhas of the three existences make their appearance in the world because they bear in mind the one great reason, or one great affair. The word one represents the truth of the middle way, the Lotus Sutra. The word great represents the truth of non-substantiality, the Flower Garland Sutra. The word affair represents the truth of temporary existence, the Agama, Correct and Equal and Wisdom Sutras. So these earlier sutras are dealing with the temporary existence. The later Flower Garland is non-substantiality, which in Japanese is ku. And the Lotus Sutra was the middle way, which is temporary existence, which is physical existence, spiritual existence, which is non-substantial, and the middle way, which is the entity of both nature and appearance, which are the two other ways. These three constitute the unity of the three truths as expounded in the teaching of the Buddha's lifetime. When one wakens to and comes to understand this, then one can attain the goal of Buddhahood. Hence, this constitutes the fulfillment of the original intention for which the Buddhas appear in the world, the direct road to the attainment of Buddhahood by living beings. The reason for which they appear consists of causes and conditions. This is 2 of the 10 factors of life. The causes are the unity of the 3 truths that exist, eternal and unchanging, within the bodies of all living beings. So, once again, he says the 3 bodies of the Buddha are existing within all living beings. The 3 truths is the 3 bodies of the Buddha. It's the same thing. Eternally, the truths exist, eternal and unchanging. So they were, eternal means from the infinite past to the infinite future, eternity. There's just a circular figure 8 that never ends. It's like a Mobius strip of reality. There's no beginning or end. All is oneness. Okay. Where was I? Here we go. But although the 3 inherent causes... No, I'm going to go back a little further. The causes are the unity of the 3 truths that exist, eternal and unchanging, within the bodies of all living beings. Hence, they are referred to collectively as causes. But although the 3 inherent causes, or potentials, of the Buddha nature are possessed by all beings, if such beings do not encounter the right conditions by meeting a good friend or teacher, then they will not become awakened. They will not understand. Their Buddha nature will not manifest itself. So this is talking about mentor-disciple relationship. You have to have a good teacher that connects you in, which if you guys don't have a mentor, then, hey, if you're listening to this and you're digging on what I'm saying, that I'm acting as a mentor, you're acting as a disciple in this case. There's many different relationships you can have, mentor-disciple relationship, with many teachers in many fields. I have many mentors in my life. You can listen to my YouTube video, who is one of my main mentors, Daisaku Ikeda, and why he's that. So is Nichiren, so is the historical Buddha Gautama, a.k.a. Shakyamuni, a.k.a. Siddhartha, a.k.a. No, I don't want to go into that. Anyway, all is oneness, so you can call it anything you want. You can call him Santa Claus if you want. It's still all oneness. If they encounter the necessary conditions by meeting a good friend, however, then their Buddha nature will invariably become manifest. Hence, such meetings are referred to as conditions. So, just like you can have love in your heart, but unless you have another person or another thing to feel love about, it's really hard to manifest that. So, if you were living all by yourself on an island and there was even no other animals or anything like that, I guess you can fall in love with a tree or a bush, I guess. But it would be easier if you can feel that condition, because it's an inherent cause and you need an external cause to bring it out. So that's what this is basically saying. Everything, all feelings, all enlightenment's the same way. But now, if these 5 components, one great affair, causes and conditions, come together harmoniously, and one fulfills the difficult to fulfill condition of encountering a good friend, then what could possibly hinder the manifestation of the 5 aspects of Buddha nature? When spring comes and conditions of wind and rain prevail, then even the mindless plant and trees will all put forth buds, blossom in glory, and make their presence known to the world. And when autumn arrives, when its conditions of autumn moonlight, then plants and trees will all ripen and bear fruit. Then they will nourish all sentient beings, sustain their lives, bring them to maturity, and in the end manifest both the virtue and the function of Buddhahood. Can anyone doubt this? If even the mindless plants and trees can do so, how much truer should this be for human beings? So, all plants function within the world of Buddhahood too. They all go through the seasons and the cycles, and they all bloom forth when they're ready to bloom forth, when it's a time, and they all blossom at the time it's time to blossom. So now is the time within the latter day of the law when we're all meant to be Buddhas from time without beginning, because this is the blossoming time. Because the muddier the swamp, the more beautiful the lotus blossoms. So if you guys aren't realizing that this society is very muddy with all the trash and junk going on, then and you want it to get more muddy before you blossom, you can do that. But anyway, it's muddy enough for me. I'm ready to blossom. I am blossomed. Okay, so he says, how much more true is this for human beings? If the plants can do it without even having to think, they are consciousness, like everything is consciousness, but they don't sit there and go, should I do it now or should I wait another 100 years? Okay, though we are no more than ordinary mortals in the state of delusion, we have our own minds, our understanding. We can distinguish right from wrong and gauge what is timely. Because of karma accumulated in the past, we have been born in the land where the Buddhist law is propagated. So this is the final teachings of karma, is much different than the old school teachings of karma. Because here he's saying, because causes of karma accumulated in the past, we have been born in the land where the Buddhist law is propagated. So this is good karma. So old schools of Buddhism, Hinayana or lesser vehicle schools, say karma is just bad stuff. All the bad stuff you do, it accumulates, and you can, until you go through the shit in hell for many lifetimes, you can't get rid of all that shit that you created over all the millions of lifetimes. But in the final teachings, everything good you do is all creating great karma. So as long as you create more good karma than you create bad karma, you're going to get more good stuff than you're going to get bad stuff. It's very simple. Just cause and effect. Okay, so we are all born in this time because we created some incredible causes. That's why we are able to know right now we are Buddhas, and we don't have to wait, thousands and thousands of years like they had to do back in the middle and former day of the law, because it wasn't the time to expound that teaching. Okay, I'm drinking, I forget what tea it is, but it's just a tea that I muscle tested for before going to bed. My body wanted that. Maybe that'll allow me to fall asleep, not keep me up. Okay, if we can meet with a good friend, we will gain an understanding of causes and effects and attain Buddhahood. If we meet with a good friend, is there any reason why we should be inferior even to the plants and trees, remaining dumb and unresponding and failing to manifest the three inherent potentials of the Buddha nature that are within us? This time, without fail, we must wake from the dream realm of birth and death, return to the waking state of original enlightenment. So this is the time, right now, boys and girls, time to wake up, and sever the cords that bind us to birth and death. And from that time on, we will no longer entertain in our minds the Buddhist doctrine that pertain to the realm of dreams. So this whole idea that the Buddha is above us is the realm of dreams. If you put Shakyamuni on a pedestal, or Siddhartha, whatever you want to call him, I know there's people that think people call him Shakyamuni, why don't they call him Siddhartha? It doesn't really matter what you call him, because that's putting him on a pedestal and thinking he's above you, and that's not Buddhism. That's not his final teachings. Okay. So that's the realm of dreams. So if we're ready now to wake up to the realm of enlightenment, we will know that we are the Buddha from time without beginning. We will join in harmony with the single mind of the Buddhas of the three existences, carry out the practices of Myoho Renge-kyo, and without any obstruction attain enlightenment. For the distinction between the two teachings, those that pertain to the Buddha's enlightenment and those that pertain to the instruction and conversion of others, is as clear as though reflected in a mirror. It is just as stated in the declaration of the Buddhas of the three existences. Keep this matter secret. Keep this matter secret. He says that twice at the end. Okay. Nichiren. The 10th month of the 7th year of Koan era, which is 1279. Okay, but whether it's really 1279 or 1278, it's around the same time when he said, I completed my mission in this life. And this is what I think he's referring to. And the other one I'm going to read next, which is a letter to Misawa. Let me just read the background, since I'm feeling good, and I haven't done an installment for so many months. The reason I haven't is because you guys haven't been commenting enough. You haven't been liking enough. You haven't been sharing enough. So I have so many other videos on my YouTube page that are getting so much more hits, so much more comments, so much more shares, and added to people's playlists. So, of course, I'm spending more time on the ones that are getting more attention. So if people show me that they're interested in this kind of stuff, I'll do more of these. But if not, I just, I'm looking at what's on YouTube and what are people talking about. The people are talking about some crazy shit out there. One of them is the flat earth theory. Have you guys heard about this? Okay, so I made 2 videos of the flat earth theory so far. I was going to make another one today, but the sun wasn't out because I was going to test some of the theories that they say, which you need the sun bright to do it. Anyway, go check those out because they just crack me up. Anyway, I put those up. That day I had 99 views. I've never had a video except, what was his name? I had a healer come on to my show, Rudy Hunter. I think within a couple days, he had like 300 or 400 hits. That was the only time I ever had 300 or 400 hits in a couple days. I think he's had 1,000 within a week. And that's so far my record. 1 week, 1 video. So you see my spike. All my hits are going up like this over the last 3 years, and it's going up pretty high. But one day it went like that and came back down, and then it's doing this. And that was the one I put up, Rudy Hunter. That's why I decided to do more of those type of videos, because those are having big hits. And then now that I just put up these 2 videos, my doubt of this whole flat earth theory, and those got 99 hits in one day, and the second one I did, question and answers on it, got another almost 100 hits in one day. I'm going to do some more of those videos because those are getting more hits than this. So please tell me what you like by commenting below, by subscribing, by clicking the like, clicking the share. You can share it on all your different, it shows all that when you push share, you'll get Facebook, Twitter, all those different things you can share it on. So please help me out. Share it if this is what you want me to do more of. Okay, so I'm going to read the background. This work is generally recognized as having been written at Minobu in the 10th month of 1279. I drove by Minobu. Going from Kofu Eki, I played in Yamanashi. You go down the river, down, I think it's called the Fuji River, and you see Mount Fuji on one side, and you see Mount Minobu on the other side. And then you drive to Shizuoka, and I played at Shizuoka Station. And it was pretty cool to be in his last part of his life. He was there. But its recipient is unknown. So who he wrote it to, they don't know. It is also referred to by its abbreviated title, the Unanimous Declaration by the Buddhas of the Three Existences, or the Unanimous Declaration. The title, in effect, summarizes the contents. It indicates in essence that all Buddhas throughout all time have deeply considered and declared the manner in which the teachings of Buddhism must be classified, affirming which teaching are to be rejected and which upheld as effective for the attainment of Buddhahood. Nichiren Daishonin applies a classification to the entire body of Shakyamuni's Buddha's teachings that divides them into 2 categories: those teachings pertaining to the instruction and conversion of others, and those pertaining to the Buddha's own enlightenment. The Japanese term for these 2 categories is jigyo, literally self-practice, and keta, sorry. Jigyo keta, instruction and conversion of others. Okay, these terms are interpreted differently when applied to religious practice and when applied to the Buddhist teachings. When applied to practice, jigyo means practice for oneself. Buddhist practice for the purpose of achieving one's own enlightenment, and keta means practice for others. Altruistic practice aimed at helping others to attain enlightenment. But when applied to the Buddhist teachings, jigyo refers to the Buddhist teachings that pertain to his own enlightenment, while keta refers to the teaching of the Buddha expounded in accord with the capacity of the person to lead them to the true teaching of enlightenment. Okay, in the system of classification referred to in this work, the teachings pertaining to the instruction and conversion of others are identified as expedient means, or the provisional teachings that Shakyamuni set forth prior to the Lotus Sutra. The teachings pertaining to the Buddha's enlightenment refer to the true teaching or the teachings of the Lotus Sutra. The declaration of the Buddhas of the three existences of past, present, and future is that the expedient teaching expounded for the instruction and conversion of others should be abandoned, and the Lotus Sutra, the teaching that directly reveals the Buddha's own enlightenment, should be upheld. So the only time the previous teachings should be taught is in the first 1,000 year and the second 1,000 years, which we call the the former and middle day of the law. That's what they were taught for. And he said, in the fifth 500 years after I die, they will be Bodhisattva Jogyo, which is Nichiren Daishonin, who will be able to reveal the true teaching, which the Lotus Sutra totally expounded, but it's just, for most people, if they don't understand that they're a Buddha, they can't really understand it. But once you read it from the point of view of reading the Gosho, and then you go back and read it, the sutra's so obvious. It's all people are equal, all people are Buddhists from time without beginning. It says it over and over in the sutra. And I read 3 different translations: the Kern translation, the Threefold Lotus Sutra, which I forget the person who translated that one, and the Burton Watson translation of just the Lotus Sutra. So I read all 3 of those, and they all come at it at a little bit different. There's a little bit different meaning in the translation, but they all pretty much say the same thing, that we're all Buddhists from time without beginning, and this is the time to realize that and know it. I have them all on my Kindle. I got them all free online. You can search out. They're on different websites. You can download it on PDF and send it to your Kindle. After I read them all, I listened to them all while I was working out, because you can get your Kindle to read it to you, and it butchers a lot of the names because it doesn't know how to pronounce those old Indian names. So, but anyway, once you know what the names are, you don't really care if they pronounce it right or wrong. Okay, I put that also, some of my reading of the Lotus Sutra from my Kindle up online, and a lot of people didn't like that, so I stopped doing that. I can put more up if you like it, but just I kind of try to go with what everyone likes, more of what you like and comment on. The Daishonin describes the declaration referred to in the title as the collection of passages related and revealed by the Buddhas of the 3 existences, a reference to the entire Lotus Sutra, and specific passages such as the one from the Immeasurable Meaning Sutra, which serves as an introduction to the Lotus Sutra. So the Immeasurable Meaning is the introduction to, it's a part of the Threefold Lotus Sutra, which you can get online for free. I forget who was the author that translated the Threefold Lotus Sutra, but it's worth reading. Very similar to the translation of the Lotus Sutra by Burton Watson, but it's just a little different. I kind of like getting all the 3 different takes, because you can't really get any one interpretation or one translation to be exactly what it says. In these more than 40 years, I have not yet revealed the truth. This is from the Immeasurable Meaning Sutra. The passage from the Expedient Means, or second chapter of the Lotus Sutra. This is the passage. Following the same fashion that the Buddhas of the three existences employed in preaching the teachings, I will now do likewise, preaching the law that is without distinctions. And without distinctions means there's no classification between higher and lower. Everything is equal. And that's why he says, I made a vow in the Lotus Sutra to make all people equal to me with no distinctions. It means there's no superiority or ranking whatsoever. Also from the same chapter. In the Buddha land of the 10 directions, there is only the law of the one vehicle. There are not two, there are not three. And the Buddhas, the world-honored ones, appear in the world for one great reason alone. Okay, so those are all quotes from the Lotus Sutra. Once again, the first one, following the same fashion that the Buddhas of the three existences employed in preaching the teaching, I will now do likewise, preaching the law that is without distinction. Okay, in that same chapter he says, in the Buddha lands of the 10 directions, there is only the law of the one vehicle. There are not two or three. So he taught three vehicles, but there's only really Buddhahood. So these three vehicles of cause awakened one, voice hearers, and bodhisattva, or the world of learning, the world of realization, and the world of altruism, are really only one vehicle, which is a Buddha. So there's no steps to be taken once you know that it's all fused into the one final teaching, which is the Buddha, which you are. So he says that right in the Lotus Sutra. It's very, very plain and clear. So it also says in that chapter, the Buddha, the world-honored ones, appear in the world for one great reason alone. Okay, and that's the reason, is to show that you guys are all Buddhas. The words of the title, quote, classification of the teachings of which are to be abandoned and which upheld, point to the conclusion that among all the Buddhist teachings, those taught as expedient means are to be abandoned, and those that reveal the truth are to be upheld. The Daishonin applies the classification of Buddhism approved by all the Buddhas to Shakyamuni Buddha's lifetime's teachings, and makes clear that the Lotus Sutra is the true teaching, which opens up and merges all the other teachings. Then he refers to a wonderful law without distinction in the Expedient Means chapter. So this wonderful law without distinction is the law of Myoho Renge-kyo, identifying it as one vehicle of Myoho Renge-kyo present in one's mind that pervades the entire universe. So this is the law, this is the true Buddha. You are it. It's your consciousness. It's life itself. The Daishonin begins by making the distinction between the teachings expounded by Shakyamuni Buddha during the first 40 or more years of his preaching life, and the teaching of the Lotus Sutra, which the Buddha expounded during his final 8 years. He identifies the former as teachings pertaining to the conversion of others, expedient means, provisional in nature, teachings expounded in a dream realm for those in a dream state. In contrast to this, he defines the Lotus Sutra as the teaching pertaining to the Buddha's own enlightenment, the true teaching, the teaching expounded in and for those in the waking state. Okay. Next, he briefly outlines the nature of those teachings pertaining to the conversion of others and describes the significance of the teachings pertaining to the Buddha's enlightenment. The Lotus Sutra explains its wondrous function in opening up and merging all other teachings into the single principle of the wonderful law. That's why the title of Lotus Sutra is The Wonderful Law of the Lotus Blossom Sutra. This wonderful law, Myoho Renge Kyo. He explains the essence of the enlightenment attained by Shakyamuni Buddha in the unimaginably remote past, which is the wonderful law or mystic law from time without beginning. He describes greatly different results produced by the teachings pertaining to the Buddha's enlightenment and those intended for the conversion of others, and the differences in power and function between them, prescribing the practice that enables ordinary people in the latter day of the law to attain Buddhahood. Next he says, when one opens up and merges these, the sacred teachings of the Buddha's lifetime, so that one can perceive that the three truths constitute a single entity, that is to attain Buddhahood. So once you understand this, you are a Buddha. This is called opening up and merging, and this is the teaching that pertains to the Buddha's enlightenment. Finally, he refers to the one great reason, or more literally, the one great affair, for which all Buddhas appear in the world, and conclude, we will join in harmony with the single mind of the Buddhas of the three existences, carry out the practice of Myoho Renge Kyo, and without any obstruction attain enlightenment. For the distinction between the two teachings, those that pertain to the Buddha's enlightenment and those that pertain to the instruction and conversion of others, is as clear as though reflected in a mirror, if it is just as stated in the declaration of the Buddhas of the three existences. Keep this matter secret, keep this matter secret. Okay, so that's all, folks. Stay tuned next time for the reading of Letter to Mishima. This was published in the second volume, and this didn't come out until, let's see when this was finally published in English, 2006. So the first volume, which is 1,000-something pages, which I'll read the Letter Mishima from, was first published in the major writings, which is like 5 volumes. But then they made it super small print and super big page, so they could put all those 5 volumes in that one. And then this one was published, which were never published in English. And they waited until 2006 because that was the time finally when you guys are all ready. That's why it says don't reveal this until the time is right. So now you guys are all ready. And I look forward to your comments and your likes and your subscribing and all the other things to encourage me to do more of this. Otherwise, I'll go on do all my videos I've been doing, music videos. I'm working on my 4th professional music video. I just finished all the recording of a 13-song CD in Italy. I went in last September. What was it? August and September. And the first 2 just got released, songs from that CD. So we're working on, the band in Italy is working on the rest of the recording of it. I did all the vocal parts. And so far the first 2 songs are really great. So I put them up on my YouTube. Check them out. You can pre-order the CD to help us out. The more money we get from the pre-order of the CD, we can finish the CDs quicker. We're shooting for about a year or 2. My last CD took me about 3 years because I couldn't afford paying the producer to do each song, so it took me about 3 months or more to do each song. This new CD I'm doing, I'm paying the producer double that. He's also an SGI member from Italy. He's incredible. He plays the guitar, the piano, the bass, and other instruments, and he does all the string section recording programmed, but it sounds incredible. And I'm working with my my video producer to do our 4th music video right now, which is going to be one of those songs. We're releasing it early with the old CD I did in Japan with Otonohaka, which was a small record company I won a song competition with, and it's the Japanese version of that song I won the song competition with. But on the new CD, it'll have the Japanese version, a much better version because that CD wasn't that great, and an English version of the song, which I won the contest doing the English version. So this fourth video will be actually a fourth and fifth video because we'll do both an English and Japanese version. That we're going to release the Japanese version real soon using the old recording, and then we're just going to, once we get the one done from Italy, we're going to just put it in this and sync it up with the new version of the song. It'll be about the same tempo, but it'll probably be longer, maybe bridge or longer solo parts or longer introduction or whatever, or outro, I don't know. I leave that all up to my producer. I just give him songs like A Naked Body. I give him the melody, the chord structure, and the basic structure of the song, and that's all. There's only 3 parts to a song. There's a melody, lyrics, and chord structure. Those are the 3 parts you can own of a song. So I do those 3, give them to him. It's like a naked body, and then he puts clothes on it, does the hairdo, tattoos, whatever he wants to do to it to make it a fully produced song. So I give him complete. I did the same thing with Remy pretty much. I told him on my last CD, just I record my vocal, I record the scratch track of a piano and a guitar, boom, and I send it to him, and then he puts all the instruments in and had everything done, and then it surprised me to get it. Wow, it's like a whole new creation. And that's what I got with this first 2 songs from my producer. Totally incredible. One song I didn't even think it was going to be such hard rock, or not really hard rock, but I kind of wrote it as acoustic ballad kind of, but then he put it in the full band and it just became this really strong song. I'm like, wow. That was actually Brighter Than the Sun, which was originally going to be on my last CD was going to be called Brighter Than the Sun, but I never got around to recording that song because I kept, over the 3 years that we worked on the CD, I kept writing new songs, so I kept wanting to do the new songs that I wrote. So this was the only time I went into the studio, did all 13 songs at once, so I couldn't add more songs in later. So I took some songs I wrote in the 90s, which is Brighter Than the Sun. I took some songs I wrote way back, mid-90s, called Her Story, Not History. And then I took some brand new ones I just wrote recently. And God, I have a really... so many new and old ones together on this new CD, so it's going to be really incredible because I never recorded any of these songs other than the Japanese CD where I recorded. It wasn't that great because I won the contest and they were this company was kind of going out of business after I won the contest. Now they're still in business, but they're not really doing as good as they were before they did the contest. And so I don't think they really took seriously what they were doing with my winnings, because it was a free demo, it was a free production for them. So you're going to hear that on the next CD. You're going to hear that on the next video, their version of it, which is called... I actually put that 3-song CD up on my YouTube page too, so you can listen to the whole Japanese version of my contest winning CD. Okay, it's getting very late. Wow, it's almost 12 o'clock. 11:45. I better go to bed. Okay. That's all. Peace out. I love you all. Thanks a lot.